Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today on this Friday afternoon. We are here with Hydreight Technologies, Inc. and Victory Square Technologies for an investor Q&A webinar. Thank you, everyone, for submitting your questions ahead of time. It was greatly appreciated. We have a bunch to go through today, so we're going to try and keep it within the hour time frame. If we do if we do by chance run out of time, please don't hesitate to send the questions into ir@victorysquare.com or ir@hydreight.com, and we can ensure to answer the questions. We're just going to give it a few more moments as I see some people in the wait room, and then we'll begin.
Happy Friday to everyone. Thanks for giving us your time today to listen to a presentation from Hydreight. I'm super excited. Everyone's heard me speak super positively about Hydreight. It's the company in our portfolio that we think is that outlier. It's an honor and privilege today to welcome Hydreight's management team, Vahid Shababi and the CEO of Hydreight, Shane Madden. What we'll do is I'll give Vahid and Shane a bit of time to kind of walk through a brief presentation, and then we'll get to the Q&A. And like Abby mentioned, we're recording it this time, so apologies for the Game On webinar not having that recorded. But yeah, so let's kick it off. Shane, I'll turn it over to you and Vahid.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Thank you. I think you're on mute, Vahid.
Sorry, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I appreciate your time and giving us this opportunity. I'll walk you through Hydreight business model, what we do, and again, Shane also is going to share more details as far as what is the main focus right now for the business in 2023, and share some numbers and a forecast on the main projects that we're working on right now, as well as the numbers. And at the end, we're going to have a question and answer. We'll be more than happy to answer your questions. So Hydreight, what is Hydreight? Hydreight, what the Hydreight is today is way different than was 2.5 years ago, 2 years ago, when we started working together. We don't see ourselves as an app, even though we're a technology company and we do have the infrastructure to help with providing healthcare services at locations, but we see ourselves as a movement. We see as a movement that is going to help consumers, as well as many of the healthcare professionals and nurses as the first group of those healthcare professionals. So what we've seen is during the COVID, the customers' behavior have changed. Now people are expecting to receive, healthcare services at home, at their offices, at their location. Now the infrastructure was not ready for this, and we've seen many companies has tried to come in, but dealing with rules and regulations and legislations that you have to make sure to follow is not an easy task. And the harder that it gets, the more opportunity it creates for Hydreight, because it become the only one or one of the only one can provide those services. So right now, in most states in the United States, it's illegal for nurses to work outside of the brick and mortars. Unless they have a medical director, they work under a friendly PC license, which is a legal structure that is state-based. Have access to the pharmacy and the pharmacist, and also they have the malpractice insurance and liability insurance. Now, what Hydreight is, we have created that platform that nurses can join and they can start offering their services outside of the brick and mortars. We have our medical director and our doctor network. We do have our own processes that our technology supports that based on different legislations that we have to satisfy 3 different boards in every state: pharmacy board, nursing board, and the medical board, and as well as the insurance and our own pharmacy and the pharmacists that we have different products for them to offer. Now, when you look at this, the Hydreight is a turnkey that includes a telehealth platform, a medical network, online pharmacy, and everything that is needed for nurses and even some of the brick and mortars if they want to start offering their services at home. So when we look at the market size of the nurses is one of the main group of people that they're coming on board with us. We have about 4.5 million nurses in the United States that they can become part of the network. Now, we see the two different groups. We'll get into more details into this one, but we have business partner and service providers. The business partners are the license holders, but each of them, depending on type of the license, they can have different service providers, which are nurses, to provide the services. And when we look at our revenue and our numbers, there's one group that they, lack of a better word, they're running the business, and those are the business partners. And every year and every month and every quarter, we see some of those business partners, they would join other business partners as a service provider and start their offering their services. So it's going to continue increasing our pharmacy sales and our service sales. There are 4 different revenue streams that we have for Hydreight. One is the annual subscription fee that on average is about $4,000 USD that we charge, but that's not the main source of our revenue. Then we have the Hydreight services, meaning any of our nurses or business partners, when they get booked for that service, we take 10% of that for Hydreight. And in order for them to provide those services, they have to make the order to our pharmacy in order for them to be certified throughout the process. Now, our 2 main revenue streams from the Hydreight side is Hydreight Pharmacy and the service cell. So what we see is usually 80% of our revenue is coming from 25% of our clients, but that will create a ecosystem and cycle that some of these business partners that used to be the license holder, they join other business partners as a service providers. So our numbers for pharmacy and service continue going up when that is happening, and that's our main goal. The last revenue stream is our white label. The white label is in a partnership with VS Digital Health that we have created this ecosystem that provides the technology, the legal platform, as well as the pharmacy, that there are many brick and mortars and franchises that they want to have that out of the box. So for example, when Drip Bar, that they sign up, I think over 600 locations, they come and get the out of the box solution. And through that, they still have to order from our pharmacy. So we take our margin from the pharmacy. We get their 10% of their service that is happening online. And also every location that wants to use our tech, we still get that subscription from them. Now, the way that right now our revenue works, roughly our margin on the pharmacy product is about 30%. We have from 20 to 50%, depending if you want to take over the inventory or not. For the service side, we take 10% of any booking that happens through our app, and also we have the subscription. Now, you will see our numbers, how the Hydreight is growing, but we're going to talk about this more. This year, growth is not even our main focus. We don't even think the growth that we're seeing right now is the ultimate growth that we're going to see. We're focusing on while we experiencing this growth, we're focusing on the infrastructure of the platform from the legal perspective, from the tech perspective, and few other aspects that we're going to go through it to make sure we're going to be the only platform that can provide such services, and not only to cosmetic but also essential services that needed to be done. So in the high level, when a nurse comes on board or a business partner comes on board, they usually pay $4,000 and they have 3 licenses. Now, when they grow and they want to add more business partners and more nurses, they go to the higher packages, but the average is $4,000. 10% of their gross. And again, the pharmacy product between 20% to 50%, average has been this year around 30% for us for the product that we're selling through our pharmacy. And then we have additional services that being added that Shane is gonna walk you through that. When they pay for that, we help them with the medical director, with the medical insurance, with the 503B license of the pharmacy that they can order, our pharmacists, and many other things that they have. Now, we see a trend, we see how the trend is working. And originally we wanted to be that platform that they can do the business based on. But based on the stats, to help them to get more business, now soon we're getting into the B2C marketing as well, that we're going to talk about, that the initiatives that we're having. So we also get them business at the end of the day. So we're feeding them with more appointments and requests and business. In 2021, our top line revenue was roughly about 1.7 million. In 2022, we got to 6.6 million. This year, we're projecting about 16.5 with the and the more distribution is around later in Q3 and Q4. In March was the very first month that we passed $1 million USD top line revenue, which was higher than projections. And we're going to have our financials next week for Q1 that, again, we're exceeding our projections for Q1. Same thing with adjusted profit that we have. The difference between the adjusted profit and the GAAP profit for us is that there are two parts. There's actually one part. The main part for the profit is when we get the subscription for adjusted, we look at it as cash basis, and we recognize that right away because we get the entire money right away or in 2 payments within 30 days. But in the GAAP, they amortize that over 12 months. Even in 2023, we've been cash flow positive, both GAAP and non-GAAP. And again, we're going to have more numbers on those next week when we file our financial for Q1. From new business partner, that keep in mind, each of those business partners have multiple nurses underneath as a service provider. When you look at the growth, in 2021, we signed 102. In 2022, we signed over 700. And this year, we're aiming for 1,500. And this is organic growth because we're working on the few acquisitions that is going to add significantly on those numbers when we complete those acquisitions. And again, we're going to talk about that. Now, that's kind of like the Hydreight in overall, in general sense. We've been focusing a lot on partially growth, mostly on the infrastructure, and we're going to continue that in 2023. And we just started doing our IR activities as well to start, sharing our stories with other investors and get more eyeballs on the company to follow us. Now, I'll pass it to Shane Madden, the founder, the original founder and the CEO of the company, to talk about, again, overall market post-COVID and during the COVID, because there's big difference in that, and what are the main focus for the Hydreight this year to support the growth that we're expecting in next 24 months.
Perfect. Thank you, Vahid. That was perfect. Hi, everybody. It's been about a year, I think, since we last spoke. We were a private company then. We're public now, so that's been quite a journey. And just to echo some of the things that Vahid said is, whilst the expansion seems really nice and it seems excellent, we haven't really started scaling yet from what the big picture of Hydreight is. I won't put the founder hat on too heavy here. I'll try to stick to the CEO stuff. But essentially, Hydreight's mission statement, just to kind of give you an overview of where we've come from and where we're going and what impact those things will have on the success of the company, as well as the need that we're fulfilling, right? So what is the gap in the market? How are we uniquely positioned to fulfill those things? And what are we doing creatively to be the only show in town? So I think, excuse me, I think to cover those, we have to really go backwards a second. So our mission statement for Hydreight was to create a medical network across all 50 states. Pretty bold statement. How can we go about that? We went about that by discussing the operations with the state boards that Vahid referred to, nursing boards, medical boards, pharmacy boards. Again, this had been done. So similar to how we're described as Uber, we'd be closer to an Uber Eats actually than an Uber. But we're described that way because we reimagined how this was done. It wasn't that mobile medicine wasn't done in pockets around the country. Again, to use an Uber analogy, there was taxi ranks all over the country before Uber. It's just there was no one platform. Now, so we went about that. We did an amazing job over the years of rolling out a platform with proprietary software and fixing barriers to entry. So we went after a service provider who is the backbone of the healthcare industry. That had never been done before. So nobody had ever, no platform, no company had ever tried to empower the nurses of the United States. There's 4.5 million. And to do that, we had to fix all barriers to entry. So mobile medicine, as Vahid correctly said, is not something that's difficult to do. It's actually illegal to do in 30 to 50 states if you don't have a correct structure. So we essentially reimagined how healthcare was done. We took a bricks and mortar model and made it mobile, right? We took medical direction, access to pharmacy, legal compliance, access to the patients via modern technology, the way everybody's looking to do it now. And we did all of that with an eye towards completely empowering the nurses of the United States, fixing all barriers to entry and make it cost effective. If it wasn't cost effective, nobody was able to enter this. So that was the mission statement. Now, nobody had a magic wand. So COVID obviously shone a light on not only a need for this type of service, being mobile and being medical, etc., and through the use of technology, but it shone a light on a company like ours and the opportunity that we give to not only nurses, but access to patients. It did two things. So during the pandemic, and most people don't know that the pandemic officially was only last week, believe it or not, or 2 weeks ago, I think. So this has been quite a journey where laws were relaxed at that time. And what you saw is some companies open up during the COVID that really didn't have the same mission statement as a Hydreight or weren't looking at it from a compliance standpoint. So those companies that you see opening up, just as easily now you see them closing down. In actual fact, there was one IV drip company that closed 11 states overnight within the last couple of months. So again, if you're not structured correctly, which is the way Hydreight started out with its mission, you're going to be in trouble. So essentially, our eye has always been on compliance, being a game changer, disruptor in the industry, if you want to think of it that way. So we continue on that trend. Now that COVID is over, what you're starting to see is the state boards are actually cracking down again, not only bringing back old policies, but actually bringing new policies, right? So it was a little less there for a while, and others were able to benefit from that. And Hydreight is positioned uniquely to actually fulfill this, I wouldn't call it a void, right? It's more of a Grand Canyon at this point. So Hydreight is their position. So there's a number of things we've done to kind of continue our mission statement on. Even though we're uniquely structured, where our service providers are actually part of the medical network, and Hydreight is the technology that sits on that, we again wanted to keep the same mantra of removing all barriers to entry. So we engaged with a law firm, again, with the eye of the future of this being, the only platform really that can do all of what we're saying for the nurses. We engage with a law firm that has actually proprietary access to all three nursing, pharmacy, and medical boards at all times. So we're doing a review of any legislation that's current or pending, so that we can inform our providers and our medical team of any changes. So we're on the forefront of what is compliance. What is compliance now? What is compliance coming? What are being talked about in the future? And we're doing that on a quarterly basis, just to give the confidence of our providers that we are completely, looking at the correct things, and everybody is moving forward with compliance in mind. One of these initiatives that's come out since post-COVID is the need of telemedicine as a mandatory step to create a client relationship. Again, these were laws that were very relaxed during COVID. So again, a platform like ours needs a doctor network. We've expanded that over the last couple of months to over 100 doctors, with a view to 2, 3, 4 at any time in a scalable fashion. So again, a tremendous undertaking. And I'll go into an example in a second, just to give you a real world nuts and bolts perspective of how difficult something like this is and why Hydreight is uniquely positioned. So we've been expanding our doctor network in lieu of One of the rollouts is going to be creating a client patient assessment. So prior to this, using technology so that it's not a laborious task on the client to have to do X, Y, and Z step. It doesn't impact the flow of a service, but it offers the highest level of compliance. So we've been building things like this out. Again, uniquely positioned. Others aren't looking at this through the same lens. From a B to C side, so essentially empowering our providers to not only be more successful, but make more money, and the platform as a whole. We've always had a focus of expanding our services. So why did we start out with IV therapy? Not only was it the cool kid on the block from the medical perspective and a lot of interest around that, and it still remains that way, but it was a lower level of medicine. So it's an easier service to actually get out there in all 50 states and empower our nurses. A lot more people were credentialed to do that. So it was the perfect flagship product. Now we're expanding our gaze into multiple services, but more on the necessity side rather than the recreational side, more on the necessity side. So the aesthetics, we've moved in a direction where we're able to empower our providers again with training through one of our partners on the aesthetic side. The upside for the aesthetics is there's a great demand there. There's a very high profit margin. And again, it's an additional service that we can offer our providers. Another one is NAD. Now we see NAD here, but I'm actually going to go a step further. Patient specific. So anything that requires a prescription that is going to be specific to that person. So not down the 503B route, but more down the 503A route. So NAD, people probably heard so far about Ozempic and semaglutide and things like this. They have tremendous effects on weight loss, diabetes control. NAD is more on the mental health and addiction side, but these are patient-specific things that without a correct flow, without a structure, not only is it impossible to do effectively, but it is not compliant. So again, we're coming at everything from the compliant gaze and what the customers are looking for, what the providers are looking to give, and what the patients are looking to receive. And then lab tests. So again, lab tests are a broad term. So there can be at-home tests, there can be administered tests, etc. But some of these very high-level medicine, patient-specific, they require a lab test. So again, going back without sounding redundant here, going back to structure, going back to compliance, and I'll give Ozempic as an example here for a nuts and bolts. So everybody's probably heard of semaglutide, the amazing benefits of it, but let me just give you a real world nuts and bolts. To do this correctly, there should be a lab test done. Then there should be a result of that lab test. Then there should be a telemedicine consult, and then a provider can be dispatched to give the service. That's how it should be done. So lots of complexities there. With our technology, process, and flows, we make it seamless. Customer simply books, they're initiated onto the lab test, comes out, goes back, reviewed by the doctor, telemedicine call, service provider is dispatched. Again, a really, really in-demand service that, again, without a platform like ours is not only difficult to do, it's probably impossible to do. So that's kind of on the services side, and with our view of compliance and taking the platform in that direction. Now, on more the business side of things, we have two gazes. We have a B2C side and a B2B side. B2B, we talk about it as being nurses, access to companies that have nurses. Again, our platform is very wide-ranging, but we do focus on the providers. The nurse providers is our main customer, and the people we solve the most problems for. So that's where our focus is. So we have been speaking to some nurse recruitment companies. Obviously, they have a perfect hybrid model because they position nurses in hospitals. In a kind of a remote setting, a remote nurse, travel nurse, so to speak, but also they have access to a huge database of nurses. So we're in talks with some of them that are in the perfect early phases of their development as a company, have revenue, have growth, but also have access to our end providers. So those are things that are very, very exciting for us right now. Dispatch service B2C. So there's kind of two angles to this. We had a similar challenge when we're evolving this company to again, like an Uber. Again, we needed to have enough providers, enough coverage before we started really turning our attention to driving patients in a scalable fashion. Of course, there was many things we did from a corporate perspective to drive people to the platform, but from a nationwide strategic standpoint, we needed to have that level of coverage. So we feel like we're there now. We've been listening to our customers. We've been doing market research as to, what the best way is to do this. And we're about to launch a dispatch service where essentially we're going to have RNs. We're going to have a series of feeder marketing additions to our website. We're going to actually be driving patients the ability to either book directly. We've improved our app to where we can have the front end as a web-based booking. So we're not driving customers essentially only to the app. They can have other outlets to download and book right there. But we're going to have RNs, educated RNs from a corporate perspective, answering and dealing with calls and appropriating bookings from there around the country. So we feel that approach has not only worked in other areas of business we've seen, but it is especially the space we're in, with it being healthcare. We feel that this is going to be a huge addition to our customer offering. Our patients like to speak to somebody sometimes prior, ask questions, and appropriate bookings that way. And with our additional services, it's very important to have that educational piece too. So that's a huge piece. Then some of the other initiatives, this kind of falls under the provider B2B side, is partnership with nursing schools. Again, I'll take a leaf out of Microsoft's book here. This isn't, I'm not claiming any genius here, but essentially Microsoft gave all the software to the schools back in the day. And then when people were coming out of college, that's all they knew. So a similar approach, not only for that reason, but the providers that are coming out of the nursing schools, and especially in the climate that we are, which is a side gig economy, and all the young people coming out of college are used to this type of model. This is the perfect avenue. So we're in advanced talks with some of the nursing schools to be able to create a program there where these providers are coming out of the school, i.e. college, and straight onto our platform. Hydreight University, well, it might seem related to the previous point, it's actually not. So this is an initiative we're going to have for ongoing training, ongoing support, ongoing as we roll out services, additional resources for learning for our providers, all held within house. So webinars from industry leaders in a certain area, bringing on service providers that have done amazing in their area, which we now have a lot of really strong sales and positive things to say coming on there, giving advice of how they get it going, what works, what doesn't work, and as I said, bringing in industry leaders. And as we roll out these other services, we need these processes in place. We need training. We need an open forum for questions and grow the company this way. So before I even get to my last point, you can see we've been growing this and scaling this company essentially with the handbrake on, because we want to focus on structure. When we start rolling out all of these different divisions, you start involving telemedicine and a large network of doctors. We start rolling out additional services that have protocols and procedures in place. Sure, you're separating yourself from the competition. You're making your platform an undeniable resource, but you want to do it in a structured way. So we've had a huge focus on structuring each and every one of these divisions so that we can roll these out in a strong scale. Offering essential services and working with hospitals, again, that's kind of touching on the additional services that we are providing. We want to go down the essential route, working with hospitals. We're in some talks right now with providing the outcare side of things and working directly with them to maybe go on the preventative healthcare side of things. So again, that kind of falls under the additional services. So that's some of the focuses for 2023. Hopefully, we are going to see a huge benefit to all of these. I feel Hydreight is filling that void, as I said. Looking forward to hearing some questions.
Thanks, Shane. Thank you, Vahid, for that. I feel super spoiled that I get to see you guys go through this on a day-to-day basis. So I'm really excited that investors get to hear directly from the two of you and see everything you guys have been up to. So what we'll do, there's some questions that have come in, but there were questions that were sent in earlier. So I'm going to start with those first, and then we'll get to the ones that have been asked live. I have to start with this question first because it's been asked a number of times. So what kind of nurse resubscription rate is Hydreight having, and are the nurses making enough to justify using the platform?
That's a good question. So in order to answer that question, I go back to our business model. So we get about 80% of 75 to 80% of our business from 20 to 30% of our clients, because what we realized in last 12 months, there are a group of people come on board, but they don't know how to get clients. And that's the biggest issue that they have. Hence, we started at the dispatch services that is going to go live in month of June to help them with that. So right now, the way that we see that from the renewal perspective, on the white label, or again, the two white labels that we have, from the location has been 100% that they're renewing. Now, when we go to the Hydreight side, that we get business partner, the service providers, from the business partners, we see by adding more structure, that's going up. And again, we see the range between 25% to 40% of them renew the license. And the rest, what is happening, they go under those business partners and become a service providers, because they still enjoy the comfort of offering these services at their convenience, but they don't want to run a business. They want to get booked and they want to provide a service. So the two main revenue stream for us, which is pharmacy and the service side, that is still continue going up, because they still get booked from other business partners, but they go on their need. So the number of the nurses on the platform continuously increasing. Now, there's always an adjustment between the business partner and the service providers. Now, with all saying that, when we look at the last 12 months, that number has been increasing by about 5 to 10% every month in every quarter and every month as we move forward, and is going higher. But the biggest component for the people that they go from business partner to a service provider is getting new services and getting booked for the new services, which originally we were not looking to even provide the B2C support. We just wanted to be that platform. But the dispatch idea that we came up with is going to help significantly with that. We're testing it on a small sample right now through the social media advertising, and is gonna go live in month of June. I think it's going to be toward end of June. That's going to help with them, and I'll be more than happy to go into more details for the dispatch service, because I see there's a question about that as well. So the dispatch idea is actually came from my own personal experience, that in one of the trips that I went to Vegas to meet with Shane, I was in the cab to go from the office to the hotel, and I wanted to book the service and go through an end-to-end experience as a client and kind of interview the nurse without him knowing, who I am, to work on different areas. When I booked my service for IV drip and I picked the hangover drip, we have many different drips that they're all designed by our pharmacists, and you can find it elsewhere. A nurse called me, it was like 6:45, I booked it for 7:30 at my hotel. The nurse called me in 5 minutes and started asking a bunch of questions. In those questions, again, she was asking, hey, how many drinks did you have? I had nothing. Do you have a headache? No, I don't. Do you have nausea? No. And then she started educating me, hey, this is a better drip and cocktail for you to get rather than this one. And she upgraded me on the call to get the B12 shots and a few other shots when she comes on board. Booked it, showed up at 7:30. Then again, I shared this experience with Shane, and him and I were just brainstorming. Then we figured out there are a few different big points. One, in order to convert the B2C client, is always hard on the first conversion to be an app download. It's easier for them to pick up the phone or book online or just actually send a text message or just do a chat. The second part of it was the education piece, that the registered nurse walked me through different things that I need, and she suggested other solutions that I could take advantage of. So the idea for the dispatch is a separate website will be launched, and we're going to start it with drip, and then we're going to add other services and even the products for them to buy. If somebody, let's say in Vegas, they want to book and they search through different social media channels and advertising channels that we're working on right now, they're going to find this website. They can chat or they can pick up the phone and call. There are registered nurses hired by Hydreight sitting on the other side, pick up the phone and answer their questions. After answering their questions, they're going to dispatch the nearest nurse that is part of our premium package, and they're ready to do based on their time. And they're going to, dispatch that nurse to go to that location to provide the service. So we're, addressing few different needs. One, we're going to increase the B2C, basically the marketing and sales, and sending more clients to our business partners. Two, we're helping our end users to get their questions to be answered, and that is going to help us significantly when we're going after the essentials for elderly or other services that we're offering, because we have full-time registered nurses on the call that they can answer and they can dispatch the service provider. So again, I don't want to change the question, but this is kind of is going to help with that end as well. But we see that ecosystem of the business partners that they cannot produce enough business, they go to become a service providers. Now, we have business partners that they made their subscription payments within 6 hours by getting booked. We get business partners that they get booked into, it's either a group booking or a party or whatever that will be, or even the conferences, that within a day they make over 8,000 or 10,000 in one day. So that's very varies, and that's why we see many of the business partners that figure out the marketing play of that, they're gonna start employing other nurses as a service providers.
Perfect.
That's great. Okay, next question. There's actually two here. I'll just ask them both together. How many nurses in total are on the platform, and can you see growth in the number of nurses per license?
Yeah, I can. Chef, so right now we have a process.
I can't hear you. Sorry.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, perfect.
Yeah. We have approximately just under 1,000 locations. Now, a location is considered a business partner or a subscription. So obviously there's more nurses attached to each location. So approximately 2,000 nurses with just under 1,000 locations across the country. What we're seeing, and this kind of touches on Vahid's last answer, is when you say that your end user or your customer is a nurse, that's a very broad statement. We all know that in any industry, there's a wide range of personalities that are, people that are excellent at their job, people that are driven in this area, driven in that area. So one of the things going backwards to Hydreight's overall mission statement was we wanted to be that one-stop shop, right? The full end-to-end, full barriers to entry of everything. And we did that. The only challenge we had was we had to rely on organic growth until we had that nationwide coverage. So now we're turning our attention to driving the end user, the patient, to the providers. This has a knock-on effect on a few things. Of course, it has an immediate effect on the revenue streams for the services in the pharmacy because there's more services being given, but it has an immediate effect on the renewals, right? So it is right up to this point, we've had a very strong, what I feel is a very strong renewal rate for that missing piece. Okay, we have service providers that sign up and do $200,000. We have services providers that sign, but they have ideas of how to get customers. They listen to our webinars. They do some boots on the ground work, and then we have providers that don't do anything. So again, we're trying to bridge that gap by driving people to there. So that's kind of an overview. Are we seeing an uptick in licenses? Absolutely. As you can see, our organic growth is extremely high month on month. So yeah, that's an answer there.
Thanks, thanks, Shane. Just a follow up on that on that question. So just because I think this has come up a couple of times, just for clarification. So can you explain the difference between Hydreight partners and nurses working on the platform? And then could you also explain the different tiers of licenses offered?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, it's purely terminology. Every provider from a compliance standpoint signs up to Hydreight. So every nurse who's going to give a service is always signed up to Hydreight. However, the subscriber, the owner, will say, of that location, might be the one paying the bill, right? So our most common, we have our lowest subscription is a single nurse. So if somebody wants to come on and just do it themselves, and then we have our second, which is our most popular, which allows up to 3 nurses to be within that subscription. Okay. And again, that can be split because they have friends and they want to cover, they want to leave the hospital at different times and cover the whole week or whatever that is. And then we have our enterprise level, which is up to 10 providers on that subscription. That one is $10,000 a year and other benefits. The first one is 3. The second one, which we call NURS Premier, is 4, which is our most common with 3 providers, and then our enterprise level is 10,000, which is more of a business. If someone had access to a lot of clients and wanted to just run this with multiple providers.
Thanks, Shane. Next question. So what is the acquisition cost on new business partners? And can you tell us about how you leverage portfolio companies like Creator.co and their influencers to market for Hydreight?
So we right now for getting a new business partners, we're advertising across the board from social media to Google and referrals. Our main 4 channels beside the referrals that we see it's coming is from Facebook, it's from Instagram, it's from TikTok and Google. Now, on average right now, our cost per lead, is roughly about $8.44, roughly around those numbers. And the cost per meeting for us, which our sales team talk to them, is roughly about $10 to do that. Cost per acquisition, which is the hard costs, including the marketing paid to the sales team and all the hard costs around that, it falls around $300 to $350 depending on the month that we have. But within our packages, we also include an introductory package for pharmacy that is cost us about $200 to $250. But the idea for that is when we send that, you start getting booking right away, and they're going to start making money, which is going to add revenue to the service side of ours. And they're going to be upgraded on the marketing side because they need to have more in order to use that. So the cost of acquisition just for a customer is around $300 to $350 right now. And then we include a pharmacy package into that as well. Now, talking about the other other portfolio companies, from the marketing perspective, we try everything. And I feel that we've been super lucky and we're super grateful that the type of the clients that we have, we easily get viral in many different, with different messaging. And we had a video that it got 20 million views on TikTok and Facebook. We have another one over 10 million. So we try to use the Victory Square ecosystem as much as possible, and create that ecosystem that's supporting other portfolio companies as well. But around the marketing right now, our main focus has been around referral and working with nursing schools, working with recruitment company for nurses, and also the social media and pay-per-clicks.
Thanks, V. I think it's interesting because I know in the presentation you guys manage, you talked about the focus on organic. It's all organic up to date, and the company really focused on compliance and building that foundation. I think these types of businesses I've generally seen kind of the viral effect can hit very, very quickly. And so I can definitely see that scale up coming. Those numbers are actually very solid. I want to just touch on the ecosystem part too. I think this is one of the big benefits we see within the VST ecosystem is the ability for businesses to leverage best practices, customers, tech, talent. And we've seen this between, the relationship between Hydreight and Draft Label or VSDH. And they're all able to kind of complement, which gives each business an unfair advantage, I think, against competitors in that sector and space. So for us, Hydreight, the growth of Hydreight is really, really positively impacted, some of the other VST portfolio companies in the ecosystem. This is kind of a follow-up question to Veed, what you just answered. So maybe I'll pass this off to you. It says, since the cost to acquire new partners is so low, why don't you ramp up the marketing spend and bring on more partners more quickly?
So that's a very good question. I addressed that with three different areas. One, our goal at the very beginning was focusing on the B2B, because if we would have get consumers on the app, but we didn't have enough providers across the board, they probably would have not used the app again. So our focus went on the B2C. Now, when we are getting this many service providers coming on the app, and now we're focusing on B2C side, which is going to be the dispatch, while we're working on the B2B as well, so we can, pass enough business to our business partners. And again, remember, our main revenue source that we're counting on that and we're projecting is going to be around the pharmacy and the service side. Then right now we're focusing on the scalability of the platform and our offering by expanding our doctor network, making sure everything that Shane focused on that from the infrastructure perspective, and having that ready to go, with the eye on spending more on the marketing on the B2B side as well, to get, to have that growth number. So going back, even though our numbers are very promising, and again, we're super grateful for the team that, they're delivering good numbers and the growth to the company. But right now, we're focusing a lot on that infrastructure to make sure we scale the business correctly and properly, and bringing enough, consumers to the app and infrastructure to be able to serve them, and slowly ramping up the marketing budget for the B2B side as well, to make sure that we're gonna grow within all aspects and not only one aspect.
So, alongside that, this might be a good question to ask now too, is so, from a growth perspective, can you share what types of companies Hydreight is looking to acquire?
So, as Shane mentioned earlier, right now, the main target for us, basically there are 3 acquisition targets that we're talking to and moving to forward in the advanced conversations, is around the nursing recruitment. The nursing recruitment companies are a little bit different than the tech recruitment companies. So there are many MSPs and there are many hospitals that they sign contract with these recruitment companies. And they're going to say, for example, I need to have a nurse with this description and criteria and licenses in the state of Ohio from June 1st to June 20th. And, I'm going to pay $150. This recruitment company is going to get that $150 per hour and going to the database of the nurses that they sign up with that company and find a travel nurse to go and fulfill that position and pay them $100, and they make the $50 margin right there. Now, the nature of the travel nurses is that they get paid well, but they get booked for 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 8 weeks, but they don't get anything for another 6 or 8 weeks. So when we look at that, acquiring one of these companies, first of all, we may get to the point that for all the nurses that we place them into their job through the recruitment agency, we cut the subscription for them because we're making money for that part from them. And we just provide a Hydreight license. So on the off time, they can start offering their services, in the mobile services. 2, each of these companies that we're talking to, roughly on the top line, they have about 15 million top line revenue that is going to help with that. And thirdly, each has the database of sign up nurses. When I say sign up, means they already filled up the form, they went through the background check and all that, about 50 to 150,000 nurses each that they work on the regular basis. So, that's the main target for us this year, that if we can acquire a recruitment agency around the nurses that we add to another revenue stream for us, help with our subscription and renewal, is going to add to the number of the nurses that we have, and make it more affordable for everyone to be able to offer their services.
Yeah.
Can you explain the advantage Hydreight has with its licenses in 50 states and how some competitors may be forced to shut down?
Yeah. So again, there's a wide range of answers to that. So I'll try to take it from kind of a high level. So when we say we're compliant in 50 states, there's a law called the Corporate Practice of Medicine law. It applies to 30 of the 50. Now that means that a non-physician cannot own or operate in any capacity. So because of Hydreight's structure, we allow the nurse providers to be able to work and be able to monetize their credentials where they would not have been able to otherwise. And that's only one fix. I mean, even getting somebody onto a platform compliantly, they still have to have access to pharmacy. They still have to, and again, they're not a pharmacist, so they still have to be able to have access to drips that are already created for them, the dosages and the benefits and what that is for. Still need to have medical direction, and then in some states there's even restrictions, as we talked about in COVID, where how the service is actually booked, given, and essentially conducted needs a rollout. So without a platform like Hydreight, you could take any one of the barriers to entry, and this makes it now undoable. Where the companies are running into trouble, so that's kind of on the provider side, where the companies are running into trouble is they never set out with that structure in mind. So they're all now trying to kind of react to state laws that are coming instead of having your company set up for those in advance. So that's the unique position as Hydreight's in right now.
That's great. I like this question because I think investors will probably really like this potential. Do you have a strategy to convert Hydreight platform partners into shareholders?
So we actually started this. So we're in the conversation with security lawyers in the United States. And the way that we want to define this program and working on that is all these business partners that they come on board, when they get paid for a service, it goes through Hydreight, and we receive the money, and then we pay them out, and they can ask for the payout, which can be on daily, weekly, monthly, whenever they want. There's a cash out button on their app, and we pay them. Now, the way that we would like to design this program, and we're working with the security lawyers, is we put a max based on their subscription that we say, hey, up to 5% or 7% or 8% of their payouts can be converted into stock. So it's just kind of having that option plan for our nurses that at any given time, they can convert 5% of their payouts into the stock. With doing that, two things is happening. More funds is coming to the company. Number two, our business partner become our shareholders, that it's in their benefits to stay with the company, and it's in their benefits to add to their services and their revenue, because they're going to benefit from that. Just think about it. If every restaurant on Uber Eats were a shareholder of the Uber, so that would have been their benefit to revenue to go up. So yes, we're working on that one. It's a little bit complex, but this is the program that we're trying to come up with and do it the way that I describe it. But I'm sure it may have some roadblocks that we have to be creative or go around it.
I love that ability, because I think, one, especially on the microcap space, to be able to have an investor that's also, licensing the product, performing the service, becomes an ambassador. And yeah, that analogy, I mean, if the early taxi cab drivers, when Uber was private, had an opportunity to take some equity into that, the growth in that would have probably been significantly bigger than what they made on the platform alone. So I think it's also aspirational for a lot of these nurses to also, own part of a company that they're helping to build. I love that opportunity. Please tell us about new initiatives in Hydreight beyond IVs. I understand you'll be moving into cosmetic filler treatments and weight loss treatments. I also understand that these could be recurring services with lucrative pharmacy sales too.
Yeah, kind of touched on this earlier. So yeah, great question. We're trying to move. Obviously, we feel like we have the IV space and the structure and rollout and that positioned. That is what a lot of our end users, patients, are looking for. But we're also trying to expand into necessities, right? So NAD, patient-specific things that would be impossible to do without a platform like us. And that's something I know I keep repeating, but the complexities of some of these patient-specific are very, very, very complex. There needs to be multiple pieces involved in a service, and a platform like ours does it. So NAD is one. Ozempic, semaglutide is something that everyone hears about right now. Those two are patient specific, but there's going to be a number of patient specific. And in actual fact, with the crackdowns from the FDA and the increasing laws changes from the nursing boards, pharmacy boards, etc., there'll be more and more patient specific. So it actually makes what we've structured from the lab test to the doctor to the provider, that flow, it makes it even more valuable. So the aesthetic side is a little bit easier. There's a huge want for that. Training was an issue that we have uniquely solved, where the actual vendor from the aesthetics is going to be providing training to the nurses. And again, the upside of the aesthetic side is basically the profit margins are very, very high. And to the final point, yes, some of the NAD, the patient specific, are recurring. They're like a monthly membership type of model.
So this next question, I'm hoping I'm hoping you guys have a positive response, but how has being part of the VST portfolio helped you?
Well, I guess only I can answer that one, I guess, right? It'd be a bit weird if you took that one, right? So yeah, fantastic. Let me be honest. The company was in a position where, again, it was uniquely positioned for the structural advantages that I had laid out earlier. But it needed a big brother, it needed that management, it needed a company that had experience in this type of thing, not only in tech but in rolling out and doing large things. We essentially set out some goals that we wanted to do. We agreed on those and we worked together as a team. Vahid and Shafin have been incredibly not only hands-on but also supportive in some of the decisions I needed to make. Some of them are pretty grandiose, so we always talk them out and work there and look where we are now. The growth we're seeing right now is really just it's a reaction to what the model is. It's not anything fantastic. I mean, that's what I said at the start. The real growth's to come. This is purely a result of having a very unique model and having being positioned in such a massive marketplace uniquely. So I'm excited about what's to come, not what we're doing right now.
No, it's great to hear that. And I know, you know, for on the VST side, not only has it been great working with you and the team, but I think also, you know, Vahid, I got to give credit to Vahid and Abby and the rest of the team. I think they've really complemented well. So much of this for us is having a strong alignment with the portfolio company CEO and their team. And I think this has been kind of a perfect fit. And I'm, you know, more excited about what's to come. I think you mentioned that the growth to me has been significant, but you know, you guys aren't even considering that growth. It's just infrastructure building. So it's almost good scary when you guys actually turn the tap on. I'm going to get to some of the questions from some of the panelists. So first question, are you leveraging the individuals that do not want nursing homes and need services at home? Can you match the elderly with services?
In regards to home, is that more like a home healthcare question?
I think that's what the investor was suggesting. Yeah.
That is actually one of the initiatives. So there's two. Our gaze right now is we not only acquisition but in terms of partnerships. It's either access to our end customer, i.e. the patient, or access to our providers. So we're open and we've been actively speaking with a number of agencies, whether it's home healthcare, nursing homes, nurse recruitment companies, hospitals, nursing schools. All of these benefit our model. So essentially, we have been some discussions, and it is a model we're looking for. Turning the platform into more of a necessity on the service side is definitely one of our huge focuses.
Perfect. So what are your thoughts on the share price of NURS Hydreight? And volume is incredibly low. Why is that? Is this a concern?
So obviously, like when you're a public company, one of the first measure that people from outside see that is the share price. And definitely that's something that, again, it's not it's not something that we don't look at. However, when we took Hydreight public and then when we team up with Shane, the biggest focus of this business was to grow this business, have the infrastructure, and focus on the growth and the infrastructure of the business. And that was the first goal for the business. We wanted to make sure that we're not a small cap business that is not profitable. We didn't want to be a business that comes with this story. We wanted to make sure that we actually deliver what we say. So a lot of our focus has gone through that. In basically, we went public in December, in end of 2022 and early 2023. This is a U.S. story. When an investor in U.S. actually download our app and go through the service, they can feel our service. It's not only in the story that it makes sense. So we had to wait for OTC listing and DTC eligibility as well to make sure when we do that, if the investor wants to be part of our shareholders and part of our team, they can do that. That came in late Q1 2023. So as mentioned earlier, our main focus was on the growth and this infrastructure. Now, starting Q2 2023, we started having some educational movements toward educating the potential investors to what we do. We started attending events. We've gone to, I think, 2 events so far, engage an IR company to start putting us in front of it. And we didn't want to have any of those activities that we create a hype and we have a 1 or 2 or 3 sudden marketing campaign that we have to continue doing that. The business, has a very healthy financial. We have money in the bank. We are cash flow positive on the GAAP and non-GAAP basis right now. And again, we're focusing on the infrastructure and the growth. And then we started slowly to also focusing on the IR side, as I said, in the Q2, mid Q2, and going to different events, educating more investors, meeting with more people, Shane, taking more one-on-one meetings to talk about the vision of the company, having more of these webinars that we do. So is it a concern? I don't call it as a concern. Definitely, we want it to be higher, and we're working on that. We feel still, these prices are great for any of the investors to come in based on what the company is producing today and the multiples that we're seeing in this market based on the revenue and the projected revenue. So we don't see it as a concern, but that's definitely something that we'll also start planning for it, and we're taking moves on that. But educated moves to bring the right investors into our group and support this growth of the company.
And I want to add to that too. I think given that VST's such a large investor too, the company's only been trading for I think just under 6 months. So. Like Vahid mentioned, getting trading in Europe, trading in the US, getting the DTC eligibility. But most importantly, and to Vahid's point, I think when starting to communicate and market the company, we wanted to make sure there were fundamentals and financials out, hard data points, because in the microcap space, and as we've seen with the VST stock, I mean, you have these volatile movements based on momentum of people kind of coming in and out of the market. And we really wanted to make sure, given that this is a US story, that when we're going and marketing it, whether it's to existing business partners that have an opportunity that to be shareholders at these early levels, but also when we go and we market it, we're bringing the audited financial statements and Q1s, which will be out I think at the end of this month. So for us, it's a long-term, longer term play. So we don't get too kind of faded or phased with, again, it's just under 6 months. It's funny, we're doing the webinar today. It's been a positive week too as well, and there's also not a lot of stock out. That's another thing it's a very, very tight float. So I think, it's going to be thinly traded for a while because anyone that wants to get a position, again, there's not a lot of sellers if anyone's looked at the market depth. We've come on to the hour, but there's two more questions I want to quickly get to. Besides providing the proper licenses for the business partners to operate, can you share additional benefits support that Hydreight offers to them?
To the providers?
Yes.
Yeah. So yeah, no, again, I think we kind of answered this one a little earlier, but again, without putting too fine a point on it, it's impossible for the providers to get into this space, not only compliantly, but fiscally, right? So essentially, everything is too expensive. They would have to create technology. They would have to hire a medical director. That medical director would have to be licensed in the state that they're looking for. And pharmaceutical, hire a doctor of pharmacy to create your drips. You wouldn't be able to have a 503B license, and essentially, you know, it just makes no sense when you did all of that and spend a couple of $100,000. You still are a one-man band. In terms of, because I'll just imagine that the question might have a follow-up. So, in terms of services outside of that, I mean, in addition, when they're already on the platform, we provide full payout service. We introduce them to specific accountants that will help them with their 1099 filing. We introduce them to additional service provider, you know, leaders of industry. When we roll out a new service, there's an education aspect, there's a rollout so that they can monetize that service. So there's a lot of access to additional knowledge. That's where the Hydreight University is coming in. And there's a lot of access to resources such as, you know, payroll. Because essentially one of our taglines is have the benefit of running your own business with none of the headache, right? So essentially we handle everything from accepting the money to paying it out if there was an affiliate involved, and paying all of that out, and then at the end of the year we help with 1099 filings and all of that stuff. So it's a full end-to-end process.
Perfect. Let's end it on the with this last question, and I apologize to anyone whose question we were not able to get to. I'll share it with Shane and Vahid after, and can have them post the answers on the Discord channel. What's the end goal? Like, what's the big idea here? What can investors look at? Like, what's the where do you want to take this?
Okay, well, I'll take this one, Vahid. So the end goal is the same as what we started. We wanted to create a unique solution that every provider, every nurse provider, the backbone of the healthcare industry, can benefit from. I've already kind of maybe gone over it a few too many times about the problems we solve, about them being able to get into this industry. But the goal is to simply take what we have right now and on 100x it, right? I mean, we have a unique position here where there's a platform that is gaining traction, but it is still at the ground level. It is -1 in the floors. It's even at floor 1. So we want to put thousands and thousands of providers and make this a household name for this type of service. Not only is the industry trending in this way with the providers, but also on the patient side. We've all seen how the last few years have gone. Mobile healthcare is where it's all headed. We were uniquely positioned during COVID, and we're even more uniquely positioned now to fill that service, the need from the patients and the need from the providers who are overworked, underpaid at their current. You know, the old healthcare model is essentially archaic, and we're a leader in this industry, and the goal is to 100x time. That's what the goal is.
I love hearing that. That's awesome. That's great news. Again, Shane, Vahid, Abby, thank you for the time today. All investors that tuned in, thank you as well. Both Victory Square and Hydreight investors, really appreciate you guys tuning in. We've recorded this, so as soon as it gets edited, we'll get it posted for viewers that didn't get a chance to watch, to actually listen to it, or anyone that did post can re-listen to it later on. Everyone have a great weekend. Anyone in the US, great Memorial Day weekend, and in Canada, have a great weekend. And yeah, we look forward to Shane, to you and Vahid and Abby sharing more updates from Hydreight shortly.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks so much, everyone. Have a good one.
Cheers.